So as you know, we'll be working on the IT band today. So the IT band is a crazy thing. It's really a non-contractile tissue that runs from the side of the hip all the way to the knee. So it can create a lot of havoc on the knee, as well as the hip, even on the back. So this band of tissue is part of an even larger band that ties into the spinal fascia, the gluteal tissue, and then running all the way down the leg. So we're gonna start in the back of the glutes against the wall. This is a nice gentle roll just to wake the areas up. And then we're gonna come right down to the floor and get into those side chains of the body, those really fibrous IT bands. And then we'll end with some gluteal activation and some stretching, so that we maintain the mobility and get better muscle activation, so that these connective tissue structures, the IT bands, aren't trying to make up for other things that should be under muscle control. So that's the plan. If you have the alpha ball, slightly larger ball, take the alpha ball to the wall. If you only have a set of the standard therapy balls, one ball is going to be perfect. Actually, take both balls out. You can start with one ball, but you may actually like 2 balls as well. So I'll show you the 2 ball option right as we begin. So let's head over to the wall. Just hopefully you'll be able to, I think you'll be able to see me fine. My head's cut out a little bit. So I'm going to take the alpha ball right into the low back to begin. I'm going to start on the left side since that's the side closer to you so you'll be able to see better. So right into the low back, the lumbar fascia, in that space between the rib cage and the pelvis. And I'm just going to sway side to side. I'm just going to go across the low back. A single ball will work, but Jen, I see you holding both. You could also try using both balls vertically, and that will fill the whole space. So having 2 balls vertically and rolling side to side will fill more space, but it will also decrease the amount of pressure and the specificity. There's no right way, so whatever way feels most comfortable for you, do that. I'll squat down a little more so I'm not totally cut out.
Can you say again the location of where we should put the balls?
Yes. So if you have the 2 balls are vertical just to the left of the spine, and they're rolling in that space between the rib cage and the pelvis. And you could do 1 ball or 2 balls. If you have the alpha ball, I really like the alpha ball for the wall rolling. If you find yourself doing a lot of rolling against the ball, I highly recommend getting the alpha. And you're just swaying side to side. And we're starting in the low back because this is where that fascia really starts to tighten. The same line of fascia that goes down the IT band actually goes all the way up under the lats, under the arms towards the shoulders too. The whole lateral chain of the body. And then now just switch over to the other side, staying in the low back, coming to the right side of the back, not rolling across the spine, but repositioning on the right and swaying side to side on the right. You're in complete control of how fast you move, how big your movements are. You can even just stay still and sustain pressure and lean in. If you find yourself really working, maybe just find stillness for a second and pause there. And as you pause, you can just take a couple deep breaths and you'll notice the areas start to soften. Take about 3 more breaths. And then now, let's bring the ball down into the gluteal area. Again, if you're using 2 balls in a tote, and you can use 1 ball or 2, it's really fine, whatever you prefer. One is gonna be a little bit sharper because it's gonna be more local, a smaller surface area. You're just gonna roll across the whole back of the glute. From the edge of the tailbone out towards the back of the hip, and then back towards center. Not crossing over, just staying in one side. So just outside the edge of the tailbone, sweeping, same action, but now we're in the pelvis. Instead of in the back, we're in the pelvis, getting into the gluteal connective tissue. So all of these connective tissue sheaths merge and thicken around that IT band. And if you think about the musculature in our leg, we have big quads, 4 quads, 3 hamstrings, okay? We have 5 adductors, all these muscles on the inside of the thigh. But then on the outside of the thigh, we don't really have any musculature. We just have this tendinous band that creates the stability in the outside of the leg as we step forward. So we have to approach that differently than we would musculature. And then when you feel like you've gotten a nice sweep of the left side of the glutes, shift over to the right. And we're just waking up these areas. Increasing a little blood flow, softening the contractile tissue and the connective tissue. Exploring across the whole back of the pelvis, feeling all of the glute coming right to the back of the hip bone on the right side, the outside of the hip, and then sweeping back over towards the edge of the sacrum. Pausing anywhere you feel like you find sensation. If you notice you're really efforting, see if you can soften and just lean into the wall. Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Hi, I'm gonna mute you so that there's no feedback and so that I stay on everyone's screen. Thanks so much for coming. So now, just another couple breaths here. Just sweeping with the ball across your buttock. Okay. And now we'll come back to the floor. And once you get to the floor, we're gonna transition to the 2 balls. We're gonna take the balls out of the tote, but we're gonna keep them together. And so right at the top of the IT band, you do have a little muscle called the tensor fasciae lata that tensifies or tightens the IT band. And that kind of lies right in here. So if you put your hands on your hips, it's just a little bit lower and slightly in front of the ball of the hip joint, that lateral hip bone. So right in front of that, there's a little muscle called the TFL or tensor fasciae lata. So we're gonna come into that. And how we're gonna do that is we're gonna take our 2 therapy balls, sit right next to them, take the balls in your hands, place them right there, and then you're gonna roll right onto them. So you're in the pelvis still. So you're outside of that front hip point, you have the ASIS, and then just behind that, in the outside of the hip, you have the tensor fasciae lata. So hip bone, front point of the pelvis, and then right between, you'll find probably a quite tender spot. And now it's going to be tender just to be on there. So take your forearm and support you. Take your top leg and give yourself a little support. And then just let your body weight rest on here. If you feel like you need a little bit more support, maybe you actually come all the way down to the ground. Take that block or your gorgeous ball or pillow underneath your head. You can just lie on it if that's attainable. See if you can just find stillness and soften into wherever you are. Maybe you rotate forward and back, easing in. This can be a really tender spot. So I see some of you kind of itching a little bit or efforting a little bit, having that sense of irritability. So see if you can meet the sensation and find a position that's sustainable. If you feel like your jaw is getting tight, relax the jaw. Maybe that will help to support the head. And then let's take a few deep breaths. Breathing deeply, softening everything you can in your body. How can you let go of the efforting and just be with the sensations? Now, if you found a position of comfort, if you allowed yourself to soften down, giving yourself external support, either at the head or the shoulder, maybe what you can do now is actually lift the bottom leg. You might feel crazy and you might be like, that is not happening, and that's fine. Listen to whatever your body's asking for. But if you feel like, okay, I can give that a try, give yourself more support in your body. So really prop up the top leg, prop up the trunk, and then see if you can move over the balls and feel what happens. Take my sock off for some stability. So by doing this, we're activating the muscles opposite of that tensile structure too, of that IT band. So by activating the opposite, we relax what we're working on, the area in which we're working. Try that 2 or 3 more times. And release. Good, just roll towards your back, coming off of the balls. Maybe once you get onto your back, you need to just readjust. So come on your back with your knees bent. Make your feet wider than the width of your hips, and just get a little gentle rocking side to side. Reset the spine, reset the pelvis. Reset the breath. And then as you're ready, prepare for the other side. I'm going to spin around so you can still see me. So start sitting. Take the 2 balls, one stacked on top of one another. You're going to find the bony point in the front of the pelvis, the ASIS. If you were to put your hands on your hips, your fingers go right there. And then find the bony point, the greater trochanter in the outside of the hip. And right between there is going to be your tensor fasciae lata. So slightly towards the front, and then now you're going to lie to your side and start to roll over. So you're angled down just a little bit. And then maybe you pause here, just feeling the sensation as your body meets the balls, maybe rocking a little bit. Finding that just right spot to find stillness. The top leg can kickstand, or maybe the knee comes to the floor, or even comes to a prop. And stay here. Or you can then find your way closer to the earth. Give yourself external support, finding what you need so that you can ease into the sensation and sustain the pressure. So using time, using gravity as the main tools for myofascial release, for softening. Take a few deep breaths. How can you make your body, wherever you are, 5 or 10% more comfortable? Can you use a pillow to support your head or support your top knee? Can you relax the jaw? The jaw and the hips are very interconnected. Feel the weight of your body doing the work rather than the efforting of your body doing the work. And then now take your bottom leg, lift it up, if it's available. If you're like, that's not happening, just stay with whatever feels right in your body. If the lifting is too much, another option could be seeing what happens when you bend and straighten the knee. Just as another variation. Here, I'll show you again. It could be like that. But we're gonna do that motion next. The goal of this activity is to activate the inner thigh so that we lengthen the outer thigh. Try 2 more lifts if it's available. Otherwise, stay and breathe wherever you are. Last time. And you might have noticed as you went, the leg got higher, 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 and then roll back onto your back. Completely release. Knees can stay bent and rock side to side, or you can just let them come down towards the ground. Letting the body feel completely supported. Letting go of any sensation, any efforting, letting the breath come back to balance. And now bend your knees, roll towards your side, and sit up for a moment. Take your therapy balls into your tote again. And now we'll lie totally on our side. So while you're lying on your side, if you want to support the head with your gorgeous ball, with a block, with a blanket, do so. I've been starting with my left leg, so I'm gonna come back to the left side, lying on my left. And now the balls are gonna come right to the IT band area. So now you'll find the greater trochanter, the bony point of the hip, and drop just below there. And now when you lie on your side, your knees are gonna be bent to 90 degrees. Hip stays on the ground. This is one of the big things where a lot of people try to overwork. They'll push into the balls so that their whole body weight is on the balls. I tend to keep my hip on the ground so that you can put as much or as little weight into the balls as you would like. So I'm gonna lie right on my side, hip on the floor, balls underneath the top, like the middle third of the thigh. So I have the balls, I'll show you right here, because then I'm going to move them to right here. So if you have the balls, think about like you're going to do it here, and then they'll flip and go right here. So start closer. And now you're just going to pull the knees into your chest and then let them come down. It's like hugging your knees to your chest, like you're making a little ball, a little cannonball, and then back down. If this is too much weight and you feel like you're cringing, tightening, efforting, take your top leg off. Let your top foot come to the floor and just the bottom leg slides up and down. There's no right way, only the way that's most sustainable for you. They're all variations, and what you have to do is become a student of your body so that you can listen to what is the right variation for me so that I can meet myself right where I am and I can ease into this. Do one more time up and down, and then pause with the knees at 90 degrees, so like you're sitting in a chair. Now we'll do the knee bending and straightening I was talking about. So, straighten the legs out in front of you as far as you can. Look it, I didn't get them straight the first time. And then bend them again. Notice how much pressure you feel. So if it's too much, let the top foot come to the floor. Just bend and straighten the bottom. Just going as far as you comfortably and smoothly can. With repetition, you'll notice, oh, I'm able to go a little bit more. Make sure the spine is still. No motion in the spine. The only thing moving right now are the knees. Breathing deeply. Time, pressure, and breath. Those are your drivers for release. Now bring your feet back to the floor. Reposition your balls. Now in the lower part of the outside of the thigh in the IT band, you're above the knee joint. This you'll find that it's less sensational. There's less pressure, less of your body weight. So you might be able to keep your knees stacked here, even if you weren't in that first placement. So as little efforting as possible. Relax your head, get your shoulder and your trunk comfortable. Hips are on the floor, stacked. Spine is still. Just rolling the knees up towards your chest, coming into a little ball, up and down. You'll notice in this series, I don't do any stripping up and down in line with the IT bands. I'm always going across the IT bands, or I'm pinning and stretching the IT bands. I want to give you different techniques, or I'm sustaining compression to that IT band. And then now when you're ready, bend and straighten. I really love this bending and straightening technique because this is the action that we do. This is that taking a step forward that we do that pulls on the IT bands. So this really mirrors how we function. And maybe you find, oh, there's a place in the range where I feel it start to pull. And you may just pause. Sustain the compression, keep the weight, and then just relax. And as you find stillness, you might find that that pressure under the ball starts to spread, kind of broaden, and starts to dissipate. Find a place of stillness and just Lean into the sensation, welcoming the sensation and softening into it, noting that sensation become broader and it begins to lessen, like it just fades away from the awareness. And now let's remove the balls. And let's switch to the other side. So you can just turn over. I'll flip flop so that you can still see me and hear me well. Is everyone doing okay? Any questions? Good. Awesome. Okay. So on your side, give yourself the support you need. Pillow, foam, whatever you have under your head. Coming in the upper part of the thigh. You're below the bony hip point, so not on the greater trochanter, but in the upper part of the thigh. Knees are going to be straight out in front, like 90 degrees. Keep the hips on the ground, so you're not transferring all your weight. You don't need all your weight. I want you to think about doing as little efforting as possible. So just pause here, meet the sensation. As you meet the sensation, notice the initial reaction of tightening or pulling away. As you do that, you might find that you roll your hips back or that you come out of alignment. So see if you can keep the hips stacked, keep the spine still, and then you start to move a little bit. Hug the knees up to your chest. If both knees are too much and you're still efforting, maybe you realize you're making a fist or you're clenching your teeth, the top leg can come to the floor and you can just continue with the bottom leg. You are in complete control of how much pressure you place. Make that pressure sustainable. And notice if the movement is starting to make you feel stimulated. Maybe you just find stillness here. Pausing and breathing into the stillness like we did on the other side. There's no right way. Just listen to the cues of your body. And this is a cross friction massage going across, kind of like a strumming of the IT band. And now you can try to bend and straighten. Remember, you'll do this several times, so maybe you only straighten a little bit. That first arc might be really, really little. It doesn't have to be big. Just go to the first barrier, that first place where you feel yourself right before you want to contract or tighten or avoid. Meet yourself there, find your edge, and then back off. And you'll notice that edge starts to move a little further, a little further, a little further. And then find stillness. Reposition the therapy balls now in the lower part of the IT band or the outside of the thigh. So you're above the knee joint, not on the joint. Start at the 90 degrees again. And just like the other side, I find that it's easier to stack the knees here. And you can start to bend the knees into the chest. So the movement comes from the hips with this action. So if you notice, your hips are doing the movement, the knees are just going along for the ride. And then in the next variation, is when you'll start to integrate the knees so the hips will stay still, and we'll move the joint below. So we'll move the knees by bending and straining the knees, flossing, lengthening. And then maybe you find a place along that range where you want to find stillness and just melt into the balls. Maybe the movement doesn't suit you. So listen to what your body's asking for. Maybe it really likes this spin and stretch, and you feel those fibers start to tweeze apart. Or maybe your body's just saying, I just want to lie and hang out right here. You begin to soften. Take about 3 more breaths wherever you are, letting go of any effort, feeling the sensation of where the body and the ball meet, and then visualizing that sensation, just broadening until it dissipates. And then go ahead, remove all of the props. Come back onto your backs, lie flat. Knees can be bent or straight. And now the next series, we're going to be doing lying on our backs. We're going to let go of the balls. Actually, let's take your set of balls while they're in the toe just for a minute, because I really want to just get into the lumbosacral junction or the SI joint just a little bit, just to balance us back to neutral, because this is where a lot of the movement is going to happen now. So just take your set of therapy balls right into those dimples at the base of the spine. And then tip the pelvis forward over it. And then tip the pelvis back. Just doing a couple of pelvic tilts here. Rebalancing the spine. Maybe even with the therapy balls there, widening the knees, rocking them one way and then the other, and just feeling the massage from the weight shifting from one side of the sacrum to the other. So therapy balls just under the low back, under the sacrum, Jen, just pelvic tilting forward and back, just resetting the pelvis before we go into this next variation, which will be a little activation and a little stretching. So forward and back, side to side. Just feel the pelvis drop into the therapy balls. And then when you're ready, take as much time as you need there to reset. Bring your pelvis back towards the earth. Take your hands right to the ASIS, those front bony hip points. Keep them level. And now cross your left foot over your right knee. Leading with the bottom of your left foot, let the left foot start to fall towards the floor on the right side. You don't have to touch, just go to where you feel a barrier, and you'll start to feel a pull through that IT band area a little bit. And then come back to center. Keep both shoulders and shoulder blades firmly planted on the earth. If it's helpful, let your arms come out towards a T-ish position. I have them slightly lower than a T, kind of like in a low V, so that my shoulder, the bottom corners of my shoulder blades stay down. And then again, let the left foot come towards the floor on the right, just to where you feel that first sensation of pull, and then come back to center. And then let's do that 2 more times. And then on the 3rd time, we'll stay in that stretch. Breathing 1 breath per motion. And then now allow your left foot to come to the earth. So the left knee is pointing up towards the ceiling. Both shoulders are on the earth, palms facing upward. Now here, push your left knee away from you. As you push your left knee away from you, you'll feel the left hip move forward towards the right. And you'll feel a little bit of activation and then release, and then just let the pelvis drop. The whole outside of the right leg is on the floor. So that whole IT band is on the floor on the right. The left knee is pointing towards the ceiling. Now push the left knee away towards the left heel. You'll activate the left glute, the left hip rotators, and you'll feel a lengthening in the front of the left hip. So a little psoas stretch here. And then release. And then let's do that 1 more time. Push the knee away, push the left hip forward, engage the left buttocks. See if you can drive the left hip towards the right side of the room, wherever you are. See if you can get more activation in the back of the left hip. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. Come back towards center a little bit. So now you can wrap your shins next to one another. So you started in this position where you were figure 4. Now take the left leg and cross it over the right. If you have the availability, you can hook your left ankle behind your right calf, but that's not necessary. And now let both legs fall over to the right. So now stretching through the low back, the outside of the glute, and the lateral aspect of the thigh. So really opening up through that whole chain. Really keep the left arm towards the floor. If your legs don't reach the earth, which that's totally fine, I have to push a little bit to get there, take a block. Take your balls, take something under that leg to bring the surface up to you. Completely let go into this rotational twist. Letting the left shoulder drop back, softening the jaw, softening the eyes. Breathing deep, feeling the ringing in your belly so that the left hip drives forward and the left ribs drive back. And then gently uncross. Bring both feet to the floor. Resettle your pelvis, maybe with a couple of pelvic tilts. And then we'll go the other way. So now, right foot over left knee. Keep both shoulder blades anchored to the floor, both palms turned up, arms a little wide. Start to rock the right knee over to the left. About 5 times or so, moving slowly, keeping the head relaxed, shoulders relaxed, letting the rib cage and pelvis go in opposite directions. And maybe after about 5 times or so, you'll let that foot come to the earth. Get there gradually. And then once you arrive, place the right foot firmly on the floor. Push down into the right foot. Push the right knee away so that the right knee reaches towards the left heel. So right knee pushes down towards your feet. Right hip pushes forward towards the left side of your body. Hold that for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. Let's do that again. Push the knee away. Push the hip forward. Engage the right glutes a little bit. See if you can use those hip rotator muscles for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. Last time on your own count. Push the knee away from you, down towards your feet. Push the right hip forward towards the left. Engage the back of the right hip. Make that active, opening up the front of the right hip. Activating the back of the right hip. Making this twist a little bit active for 3, 2, 1, and then release. Slide back to center, sliding the right shin over the left shin, and then coming back into your twist with your legs wound. Your right foot can cross behind the left calf if it's accessible. Try to keep the shoulders down. If the knees don't reach the earth, take a block, take a ball, take something there to meet yourself so that you can let the legs fall towards the floor, melt into support while keeping the right shoulder blade down. Take 3 more letting go breaths. Wringing yourself out, letting the pelvis go one way and the ribs go the other, like you're wringing out a cloth. And then untwist back to center. Coming onto your side. Push yourself up. I have one more thing for us. I want to end. I went a little bit over, so if you have to go, I totally understand, but I have one more exercise for us that I feel like is really worth seeing. So I just looked at the clock, realizing I went over. We're going to do one set on each side. And this is the best clamshell exercise you'll ever do. And I think it's really important for this series because the IT band really kicks in when our glutes aren't doing a good job stabilizing us in single leg balance. So by engaging the glutes and getting better at abduction of the leg, it really helps take the burden off the IT band. So I think this is a really critical activity. So come and join me. You're going to be at the wall. And if you do have to leave and want to see this, just write your email in the chat if you're a little short on time, if you are short on time, if you need to go, and I'll send it to you. But here's what it is. It's a clamshell activity. We're going to be in that same position on our side with our knees bent to 90 degrees. This is where I said you'll need something for between your feet. So I'm gonna put my gorgeous ball there so my feet stay hip distance. And then I'm lying right on my side. And now I'm gonna activate the glutes on the left. So how I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna push my heels into the wall. As I push my heels into the wall, I already feel my hamstrings, my glutes fire up a little bit. So just do that part. Push your heels into the wall without pushing yourself away. So it's a little tug of war. Then pull your belly in like you're doing a posterior pelvic tilt, like you're scooping the tailbone. And then you'll feel the butt engage even a little bit more. Now keep the feet pointing forward. Don't let the left foot rotate up towards the sky. Keep the feet straight, but lift the knee up, and then you'll feel the glute turn on. Hold that. Breathe again, not letting go, engaging the belly, engaging the left glute. Lift the knee just a little bit higher, pushing your heels, both heels into the wall. Exhale again. Lift one more time, just a little bit higher, feeling the quiver now in the buttocks. Hold for 3, for 2, for 1, and then release. Awesome. Let's flip to the other side. I'm just gonna flip around so my feet are not against the wall so that you guys can see me. So feet against the wall, knees at 90 degrees. Block or ball between your feet. Come all the way to your side. Push your heels into the wall. As you push your heels into the wall, feel the hamstrings recruit. Right at the bottom of the buttocks, right where the hamstrings attach to the sit bones. Tuck your tail so that you feel the belly draw in. So you've already got the hamstrings and a little bit of the butt engage. You've got your belly pulling in. Don't let the spine move. Take a breath in. Exhale, keep the feet right where they are, pushing into the wall. Lift your top knee. Breathe in again. Exhale, lift the top knee a little bit more. Feel the rotators in the back of the hip turn on. Don't let the spine move. If you feel like you're unstable, you're rolling through the spine, place your hand right on the back of the spine. Take one more round of breath. Lift just a little bit more. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. Excellent. Go ahead and come on up to sit. That exercise, you can literally do 5 of those on each side for 5 repetitions, and you'll really feel a good re-education and activation to your glutes. And that's really gonna help stabilize the buttocks and the pelvis to help keep the strain out of the IT bands. So give that one a try on your own, because I think that's a really great activation and exercise to help keep you out of your IT bands and more in your glutes. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you feel like you learned something. Please let me know if you have any questions.